Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michael Angelillo. Michael, how we doing, kid? How's it going?
We're good, man. We are good. College football national championship stage is set. We have some seemingly pretty real baseball rumors regarding the Philadelphia Phillies and Super Wild Card Weekend. They don't call it Super Wild Card Weekend anymore, but it is upon us. It is the first Saturday of the NFL playoffs, and to which should be a very entertaining weekend of games. All six games, most of them should be pretty close the way some of the spreads are laid out, but also just from, an analyst football fan perspective and looking at the way things have been wide open, we should have a great couple days ahead of us here, John. But yeah, we wanted to kick things off with some college football chatter. But before we get into that, how are we doing, John? How are we doing on this fine Saturday morning?
Oh, we're feeling great. Obviously, we had a college football semifinals.
Hmm.
The obviously we got an Eagles game tomorrow. We got a
Hmm.
big tailgate ahead of us. And
Hmm.
then the baseball team, there have been rampant hot stove rumors involving the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, so that's
Um,
exciting, man.
I
So.
want to I want to talk about college football real quick because I feel like in the order of importance for us, that's probably the least important for today's agenda.
Sure.
So the college football's version of the Final Four just happened on the past couple days. Um, the last meaningful Thursday game of football until like September happened on Thursday. Ole Miss, Miami. Absolute sweat job for us with the in terms of money, but the it was really a great game, man.
Yeah, it was cinema for sure.
You know, two teams that I think match up real. I think Miami matched up really well with Ole Miss, but Ole Miss being like the Cinderella team, I think, of this college football playoff because of the circumstances of Lane Kiffin leaving to go to LSU and Trinidad Chambliss. You know, everyone talks about in college basketball, like who's the player of the tournament. You know, which player
mm,
stands out. Trinidad Chambliss is the one I think that stood out the most because of his story and playing in D2 football, getting into the portal, going to Ole Miss. By the way, that was his last ever
as a
game.
backup, going into Ole Miss as a backup, like knowing he wasn't going to be the starter, but to take the backup role. And then was it an injury that allowed him to take over the role, and then he kind of just took it and ran with it? Was
Yeah,
that what it was?
I
Yeah.
think
So
so.
really cool story. You're definitely right with the. It had like the college basketball March Madness aura around him of the guy that everyone kind of falls in love with is like, oh my God, like what a story and what like you're tuning in every other day to watch college
Completely
basketball
justifying the
and he's going
playoffs,
crazy.
justifying switching college football to a playoff format of adding all these teams to where it's like, well, it's not always going to be one versus two, or you know what I mean? Like,
Sure. And listen, you could argue about the buy and perhaps there's validity to it. I think they do need to I know they love their New Year's Eve bowls and whatever and having these playoff games be on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. But I do think they need a slight revamp. I think like 3 weeks off, almost a month off for the teams that get a bye week in the playoff, I think it's way too much time, man. Like, to give a team a month off and then when we watch them almost always lose all the time, like last year,
unless
none of
you're
the teams
Indiana.
with the bye made it. The only way you're making it through with a bye is if you're like a complete and utter buzzsaw that is an unstoppable force the way that Indiana looks at the moment. But Miami Ole Miss was pretty peak cinema. Both teams, both quarterbacks played really well. Both teams were hitting big splash plays. Both defenses were making big plays. It was just a great game. That's when college football can be a very polarizing sport because the semifinal is the perfect way to look at it, and the last round was also a pretty good way to look at it. You had like a fine game in Miami, Ohio State, Then you had two absolute stinkers with Oregon and Indiana winning pretty handedly. But then you had a great peak cinema game. The Ole Miss Georgia game was like the best game of the year, and then that follows it up with Ole Miss Miami being an incredible game, and then you get a nice huge fat stinker last night with Indiana absolutely rolling Oregon. Last night's game was Indiana's just a buzzsaw. They're an incredible team, top to bottom, great defense, great offense, great quarterback, great coach. It's a pretty good recipe for success in college football. And it's crazy to think that, they had some sweat jobs early in the season that it looked like they were going to lose some games, and then they've just been like unstoppable. And they sweat one out against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, and they just haven't looked back really. Oregon looked totally overmatched, and they looked totally like rattled. I mean, Dante Moore was making some awful mistakes. He was dropping snaps. He was hitting it off his running back, trying to make throws. It just was a bad, bad game from him and a bad game from Oregon as a whole. And Indiana just absolutely took it to
What's
him.
the
So
second straight year where Oregon, especially at the quarterback position, just looks totally rattled and not prepared to play in that game? If you remember last year, Dylan Gabriel just he
against the Ohio State, yeah, they got absolutely killed. And it's been a trend, man, for like years now. Even going back to Mariota in the national championship, not playing all that well, and they couldn't stop Zeke. But we have the national championship set for 9 days from now. Miami against Indiana. I presume Indiana is going to be probably a decent favorite. Like, if I had to guess, probably like a touchdown favorite. The lines are out, so we can look at these things. We can take a quick little gander. Yeah, national championship, 7.5. So it was a little even underselling it. I'm sure that'll move in some direction by about a half a point, but I think that's a fair spread. I mean, the way Miami looks, um, they look good, they look gritty, they look like a bully ball tough team, but it looks like Indiana's playing at a whole different level, a whole different sport. It's kinda just what it felt like the Super Bowl last year, where obviously I think we had a lot of nerves and we talked so much shit at least I talked a lot of shit the first time around, and it came back to bite us and it was awful. So last year we were a little more timid. The Eagles were even underdogs in that game, but if you really looked at it from like a, wide lens and took a step back, we saw two teams that were absolutely not on the same level, that being the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think there's a chance we could get an ugly national championship where it's maybe starts off tight, but if Miami doesn't capitalize early, Indiana can get off and running.
28-10.
Could be worse, man. They just hung 42 on Oregon last night. Like I could, and I know Miami's defense is good, but it could be a rout. It definitely
Well, the thing
could
with
be
my,
ugly.
it's funny is like Oregon, I think just has a lot of inexperience. They've really lost a lot of guys to the draft, and granted, they have a lot of talented guys coming in, but that felt like it was like a young team going in and just getting blasted by a way more experienced team.
Sure.
Indiana made the playoff last year, and everyone was like, "Oh, they didn't deserve to be there. They're frauds." Yeah. And then that was just literally like it's basically JMU for the most part. All went to Indiana last year, and they made they ran roughshod through the Big Ten for the most part.
Yeah.
And this year, I mean, come on, man, you saw it with like Ohio State. Like they lost a lot of guys too. They
Hmm.
still had key guys. It's really come down to the quarterbacking, I would say, for a good part too. As much as we love to rip on Carson Beck, I mean, he had scored the game-winning touchdown, and Trinidad Chambers almost drove them down the field for the win. Probably should have called pass interference on Miami, Michael, and had the ball one more play at the goal line,
It's tough though.
or not at the goal
We
line,
know
but
that
at like the 15. Excuse
15 yard. Yeah,
me.
we know those rarely get called, and to nitpick like a Hail Mary sort of situation, I didn't love that design of like we're trying to complete a pass in the back corner of the end zone. It's like you're really limiting what could happen. I feel like the way the Ole Miss receivers and everyone was moving, you might have had a better chance ripping a seam ball to be caught at like the 8-yard line and, kind of got to break one tackle and you're scoring. Like that's what I thought like was going to happen, honestly. But I also, to go into some more game play or yeah, decision making, I didn't like that Miami called that timeout. They had 2 timeouts left and they called one and allowed Ole Miss to hold on to 1 timeout, and I'm just thinking, if Ole Miss wants to let the clock run down and not use their last timeout, that's fine. You can just end the game right here. Like, you can call timeout with 10 seconds left, and if Ole Miss has 1 timeout left, you can put in the end zone there because
Well,
you had one
Miami was
anyways.
had guys dropping like flies, so I think that might have been like I agree with you, but I think they
It
were
almost cost them. Like, it
I think they
genuinely
were
almost
so
cost them.
rattled on the sidelines because they had a bunch of guys like leave the game, and you got your backups in that really, it's not like an NFL backup where it's like, okay, guys got some experience, with the
Mhm.
team, and they're we all forget they're kids. They're not professionals, you
Yeah,
know.
no, they are yes, they are. But Miami, Indiana in roughly 9 days. We'll see how it goes out. Hopefully, it's a good one. We're always hoping, but it always has potential to not. So we'll see. But to pivot off of college football and into some baseball. We haven't talked ton of baseball since the Phillies had their flurry of moves earlier in the offseason, and we have some pretty serious rumors, I'll say. A lot of reporters, national and local guys, when the local guys are pushing these rumors too, that's when you really feel it. Phillies have serious interest and have had multiple meetings with free agent infielder of the Toronto Blue Jays, formerly Bo Bichette. Now, Bo Bichette, 27 years old, turns 28 in March. Um, his age being a big factor into the contract that he's going to get, his young age being what makes it an attractive option. Um, Phillies have some serious interest in him. They really do. And I think this has come from well, it's not, I think, I know, it's come from the frustration of, I guess, waiting around for JT Realmuto. I'll still believe it when I see it that JT's not going to be back on the team. I still do feel as though they value his preparation and his knowing of the pitching staff and all that sort of stuff super highly, and his relationship with Zach Wheeler super highly, that I do think it is not in their best interest perhaps to let him just walk. But they seem to be having some rough contract negotiations stemming back from the first time around in 2020, not really having a pretty negotiation to get the contract done. And I think JT's held a grudge for that, for right or for wrong. It's what's happening at the moment. And the Phillies, I think, are really weighing the alternatives. That's like, you know what? If we're not going to keep you, we're going to take a swing elsewhere and get something impactful. And it feels like Bo Bichette could just fall right into their lap if that occurs. And with that would likely come a trade of Alec Boehm to free up an infield spot, and Bo
I
Bichette
saw
would have to
something
play a
else
position he never
about
played.
that. I saw something else about that.
What did you see?
Well, considering the Phillies outfield is completely shambolic at the moment, they may move Bryce back to the outfield. You look at Bryce's workouts, and
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm going to tell you right now, zero point zero. Bryce is going back to the outfield. I could not be more confident that they are not doing that. Because you know why? Because it's come from the higher ups in the organization for like 3 years now, that they view Bryce as a first baseman, that they really don't have much interest. Bryce could be open and willing to move back to the outfield. They don't want to do that. They know how much he gets banged up and how much he's been banged up last handful of years. And first base is just definitely a significantly less physically strenuous position than putting him back in the outfield, whether it's right or left field. It's come from Dombrowski like every offseason. I don't know. Until Dave Dombrowski, says, yeah, it's a possibility that we do it, I'm not going to believe it. I don't think John Morosi's speculation of, oh, they could move Bryce back to the outfield for this. I don't, I'll be honest, I don't buy that for 1 second.
Breaking
It's
Bryce
just
Harper news: he is no longer with Under Armour.
I did see that. Under Armour's losing pretty much everybody. I think Under Armour is going to go bankrupt pretty soon, if I had to be honest with you. They lost, they lost Steph Curry, and I think they lose Bryce. I mean, that's their two biggest guys. So I think they're going bankrupt soon. But regardless of all that, if they do go get Bo Bichette, it definitely makes the Adolis Garcia signing look a lot better because as it stands now, there is definitely some sort of expectation where he's going to have to either hit like fourth or fifth in the lineup, or he's going to hit in the bottom of the lineup, probably where he should be hitting, and you're just rolling it back with like the middle of the order being some combination of Bohm, Marsh, and like Stott. So getting a guy like Bo Bichette, you kind of are just going to naturally slide him.
Well,
I would assume into the four
the big
hole.
reason, one of the big reasons you signed Bo Bichette is because one, he's right-handed. Two, his
Hmm.
splits versus lefties are very good, and you know that's kind of like how you beat the Phillies is you could have like a mediocre left-handed pitcher, but you throw them out there and they just get outs.
It's just, I mean, it's the lack of just having guys to protect Schwarber and Harper, despite the fact that Schwarber and Harper both hit lefties quite well, lefty relievers too. It's just you don't teams are still going to throw them no matter how good they are against them, and they don't have the righties behind them to really make you pay
That's what
because
Bo did last year for the Blue Jays. Springer, and Vlad Jr. Man, that's kind of what he.
I mean, they just had a lot of righties on that team too. But no, I hear you. And listen, I've been a huge Bo Bichette fan for the better part of like 4 years now. This stems from like MLB The Show stuff and watching him play. I was like, he is just really cool, and I would love to have a player like him. It seems awesome. And like, I'm tentative. I'm definitely tentative because I am worried about what the catcher situation looks like in the post JT world, and it doesn't feel like they have a they don't have an answer long term, definitely not. And the short term answers don't excite me very much. Um, and I do have some sort of fear. Like I know how much he's valued by the pitching staff. Like pitchers, every pitcher that's new here or has been here, they all have an interview after a game where they give up a home run or a big hit, and it's, yeah, that'll be the last time I ever shake off JT, or yeah, I should just listen to JT. I shook off JT and I left one out there and it got rocked. So they all trust them with their lives, and they should. He is good at calling games. The things that he struggles at or doesn't do as well anymore, like framing, for example, become like slightly more obsolete with ABS, but still can be a factor with the way he receives the ball. But all that withstanding, like Ryan Jeffers, some combination of Ryan Jeffers, Victor Caratini, Garrett Stubbs, and Rafael Marchand, some two of those four guys being together for the whole season catching, it just does not sound all that exciting to me. And does feel like a pretty big black hole offensively in the lineup versus what you've had last couple years, which at times has felt like there's been black holes, but it really, like outside of Castellanos, really hasn't been that egregious. And it also, you factor in, hopefully the pitchers don't get too shaken up about it.
Well, the
Listen, it
fact
is
that
just
JT
rumors.
Realmuto just isn't an effective offensive player anymore really nukes his value. So I think, in my opinion, though, it's like he can still run the bases. It's just like his hitting has just dropped off. The whole allure of him as the BCIB was like, oh, he does everything, sort of like a Buster Posey in a well, besides
Listen,
baseball.
when from 2019 to like 2023, it was very good. And the last 2 years obviously have been a bit of a downturn. But like last year, there were parts too. But this year was just mostly tough. I mean, ultimately, I really out when you look at the teams that are involved in trying to court Bo Bichette, the Phillies are definitely, I think, the team that needs him the least, if that makes sense. Like acquiring him would require a lot of moving parts. You'd have to trade Alec Boehm, or Bryson Stott, but it doesn't feel like they would do that. So it really would just be Boehm, and you would have to go out and get a new catcher. That's a lot of moving parts to fit in a guy like that. And while it can make your team better for sure, it's definitely gonna be a little more difficult, whereas there's some other teams that it would just be simply adding him and plugging him in and everything's happy day. So I think the need for the Phillies is less with Bo Bichette, and that is probably I'm still gonna assume that they don't sign him. I really am, until the notification comes through,
I
but
mean, they could just
there's
be
legitimate
they could just be
momentum.
using this as a way to make JT like sign with the
Yes.
Phillies. It's like, do you want to sign with us or not?
Yeah, and it seems like that's what this could be rooted in, but I think we'd be lying to say that it's not a real, like, rumor. Like, there's definitely interest in going forward with this path. It's just a matter on if it gets executed, and we'll see probably in the coming weeks.
I just don't know if like what JT's market would like. What does he think he would get from another team? Like,
I don't know if it's financially as much as I still think it's the 3rd year. They were planning to budget around, like, 13 to 15 million AAV for him, and I think he's fine with
but
that.
with
I
the
think that's what he's
impending
gonna get.
lockout, no one's going to give him a third year because that means it's really a 4 year deal for a guy that's gonna you're probably going to release on that third year. Like that's. I mean, I hate
I
to
mean,
say
they
it.
just need another catcher. I don't know. I don't think he's gonna get the 3rd year.
I mean,
I don't
I'll
think the
just say it
3rd
like
year
this.
makes sense for him either here.
This is just kind of my take on this situation. I think JT views himself with the Phillies like the way that maybe Yadier Molina viewed himself with the Cardinals, where
Yeah,
he's
I mean,
this
I've been saying that for months, that's the contract he's gonna get. Yachty at
like
35 signed a 3-year, $60 million contract.
indispensable, like he's indispensable. Whereas the Phillies are thinking, well, like you're an important guy to our team, but
Leader
like
in the clubhouse. It's a lot. It would be a lot to move off from him.
I
Um,
mean, they moved very quickly to re-sign Schwarber. Like it wasn't like they didn't wait till like now, for example. Like Schwarber's been re-signed for weeks.
yeah, no, for sure. So we will see. We'll see how it ends up, but I don't know. I'll believe JT's no longer on the team when I
I'm
see
just
it.
shocked I haven't heard a single thing about Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually how these things go with the
But
big free agents. It takes a
we
while.
we got some time to talk about some other baseball news too. Then we'll go into football. Oh, the Blue Jays are trying to sign Kyle Tucker. That's why they're going to let Bo Bichette walk. That's actually kind of smart. Yankees offer Bellinger above 30 million AAV. Yeah, he really is a moron if he turns that down. Like,
I don't think he wants to be there. I think he might want to go somewhere else, it seems like.
let's see here. Kyle Cattell Marte.
But it's also just waiting. Like it's a waiting. We know how this goes. It's a total waiting game with the big free agent fishes, unless you're really never considering anywhere else. Like reports of the Reds that were, oh, the Reds were really going to spend more than the Phillies on Schwarber, which like bullshit. But let's say they actually were, but he basically said, don't even bother because I'm just going back. So unless a player is truly like enamored and is going to stay somewhere, they take forever to sign. It's always what it is. Bryce didn't sign till like the leap year, February 29th or whatever it was.
Well, that was a little special. That was like literally like baseball like failure because they thought,
Yeah, but
oh,
like that's what it is though. Like that's what the precedent that was set now, where, you know, it wouldn't be shocking if Bichette, Tucker, we got Bichette, we got Tucker, we got Bregman, we got Ranger, we have Framber. Like there's still huge free agents out there. Um, Alonso only signed because he's was viewed similarly to Schwarber. If Schwarber hasn't signed yet, Alonso would not be signed by now. I guarantee it.
that makes
It's
sense.
it's it's the
True.
first it's the first chip that's going to fall. If Kyle Tucker gets signed, you know, or if Bo Bichette signs first, then Bregman's going to sign like immediately after, and then Tucker, like those markets are going to be set, and Tucker's going to go. It just, whatever big starter gets signed first, then the other of Ranger or Framber is going to get signed. That's just usually how it goes. But alas, we will be seeing in the coming weeks. But John,
I was gonna say, you know, there's one last piece of news of baseball, then we'll jump into football. Max Kepler really should ask a refund for those performance enhancing drugs, unless he was taking them after he was off to his like god awful start.
it's really interesting. You really do want to know when he started taking them. Like, was it after how many flyouts to the warning track before he was like, all right, F this. I need something. I need some sort of juice. Or was it the whole time? And if that's the case, that'd be pretty disappointing. It's a shame, man. We got two guys juiced up and very little to show for it. How about that? What if could you imagine if the Phillies, like, went on a run and it was like Kepler hitting these big home runs, and then this shit comes out? We'd be
Like we won the
so.
World Series and that came out.
Yeah, and it's like Kepler hit, like, the game 5 home run to beat the Dodgers, and then they, manhandle the Brewers, and then Kepler has, like, 3 homers in the World Series, and they're all clutch, and they win in 6, and he's not MVP, but he had, like, they wouldn't have done it without him, and then it comes out, "Oh, Max Kepler suspended 80 games," and we're like, they're gonna invalidate it, fans are gonna treat it like the Astros, and that would've sucked. So, you know what? Maybe things happen for a reason. We were meant to lose this year in the way we did.
Wow. All
Anyways,
right.
on
Sorry.
with that.
Then we can definitely spend more time on these games now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have the playoff field set. The 1 seed in the AFC belongs to the Denver Broncos. The 2-seeded Patriots are playing the 7-seeded Los Angeles Chargers. The 3-seeded Jacksonville Jaguars are facing the 6-seeded Buffalo Bills. And the 4-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers are facing the 5-seeded Houston Texans. And then over in the NFC, we have the 1-seeded Seattle Seahawks on a bye, the 2-seeded Chicago Bears in a divisional matchup against the 7-seeded Green Bay Packers, the 3-seeded Philadelphia Eagles taking on the 6-seeded San Francisco 49ers. And to start off wildcard weekend, we have the 4-seeded Carolina Panthers winning the NFC South with an 8-9 record, hosting what some would still say maybe is the best roster in the NFL in the playoff field, the 5-seeded Los Angeles Rams. This is a 10-point spread on Vegas Insider. You're seeing 10.5 other places, but it is currently sitting at the Rams -10 on the road. John, kick us off. What are you thinking for this game Saturday afternoon at 4:30?
Well, I'll say this: Panthers beat them before, but that kind of only lends more credence to the fact the Rams are going to win the rematch, I suppose. They lost because, the Rams lost last time from a lot of self-inflicted wounds. And look, this is a very cliched saying, the only team that can beat the Rams is the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing with the Rams, though. Like, offensively, they might be the best team offensively in the playoffs. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Puka, Devontae Adams, Matthew Stafford. I know you don't like Kyron Williams, but they're
No,
Blake.
listen, it's an very efficient rushing attack. Williams and
Yeah,
Corum,
the
solid
Kyron
players.
Williams now with Blake Corum being more involved. That's a very solid, kind of a very underrated 1-2 punch. Everyone talks about Kung Fu Kenny and Charbonnet of the Seahawks. The rushing attack of the Rams is probably just as efficient.
It's one of the most efficient in the league. It's probably more efficient.
And you just look at Carolina, first year making the playoffs. It just does not.
I have a funny betting odds number stat that I wanted to share just to see your reaction on this game. So, as of today, January 10th, 2026, the Carolina Panthers have worse Super Bowl odds than they did preseason. What are your
What?
thoughts on that?
That is insane.
And in theory, you can mental gymnastics make it make sense. The playoff field's set. We know how all the teams look. They clearly have a difficult path to get there. Whereas in the preseason, we don't know anything. The Panthers could have, back in July, the Panthers, as far as we were concerned, they could have went 13-4 this year. So I guess in that way you can sort of make it make sense, but it does feel bizarre that you're one of the final 14 teams remaining in the NFL. You have a home playoff game to start up, and you have worse Super Bowl odds than when you were the preseason comfortable pick to finish third or fourth in your own division. Pretty bizarre if you think that like that. So yeah, that was the funny stat I wanted to share for you. When I look at this game, I see, like you said, what's a world that the healthy Rams are going to go and lose in Carolina? Well, they already did it like a month ago, but it took Matthew Stafford throwing 3 interceptions, tipped
Fumble.
balls getting picked, and a fumble. It was, pick 6. It's pretty unlikely
It
that
was
all
a
those
flat spot
crazy.
for the Rams. The Rams were hot, and they went in playing a team that was kind of due for a bounce back in the Panthers, I believe, at the time. And it was just like a bad spot for the Rams. I mean,
It was a trappy spot for sure. I mean, it was a game that was when you talk about high leverage plays and stuff, that was the big difference in the game. The Panthers get a pick 6. The Panthers get an interception in the end zone. Those huge turnovers, those huge swings. The Panthers hit 2 big play touchdowns on 4th downs to Jalen Coker and Tet McMillan at different points of the game. All the explosives went in the favor of Carolina, and they muddied up the game just enough where that gave them a slight edge to be victorious. And that's gotta be the path to try to win again in this situation. I personally have a hard time seeing Stafford turning the ball over 3 times. I do wanna give a shout out to some of they do have some legit stars on that Panthers defense. Mike Jackson's having a great season. Jason
J.C.
Horn is very
Horn,
good. Derek Brown is great. But, even with those 3
Nick
guys, the unit.
Scarton,
Yeah,
Defensive Rookie of the Year
the
candidate.
unit as a whole is just bad. It's not good against the run. It's better against the pass, but it's still nothing too tremendous. They don't get a lot of pressure. Um, it's just not a
They're a
great unit.
strong offseason away from probably repeating as the NFC South
Yeah,
division
potentially,
defensively.
potentially. But you look at the offensive side of the ball for Carolina, and the running game has just fallen off a cliff. I mean, they do get Robert Hunt back, which is nice, but they were able to be in games and contend with these great teams in the regular season because Rico Dowdle was rushing for 120 yards a game and Chuba Hubbard was being very efficient. And both those guys look gassed, and
Yeah,
it's just
Rico
not a good
Dowdle's never
unit.
really been like a start, like a RB1. Like,
He was asked to be it in Dallas last year and just struggled, but this year was flourishing. And part of what makes their passing offense good is the check down game, the screen game, getting the running backs the ball in space, and they're just not doing anything with the space that they're given. And it's what's held this team back. So it's going to take a lot, I think, for an upset. And I'll be honest, the Rams getting healthy, even though they don't have Kevin Dotson, that's a huge miss for them, missing the right guard, Kevin Dotson. But they do get
there's
Devontae Adams
another thing
back.
I want to bring up though, and um, even though they beat the Cardinals last week, it did feel like that game was close for a good portion. The Rams just pulled away, and the Cardinals essentially they quit on Jonathan Gannon. He was one of the first coaches fired on Black Monday because everyone knew, around that Arizona Cardinals team that he alienated his players and they essentially quit. And 2 weeks ago, the Rams, The Rams lost 2 games in a row. The Seattle game, extremely tough loss. Then they lose to Atlanta. And everyone knew Raheem Morris was getting fired, and they still lose to the Falcons. And
Yeah,
then
they.
and then they kind of had like their little bounce back. I mean, that's the thing is like the problem with this Rams team, Michael, is it feels like whenever Sean McVay has adversity, or his teams are facing adversity, they just self-destruct. You know, with this, is that going to happen today? It shouldn't. But would I be surprised if they lose a close game because Stafford has 4 more turnovers and the Panthers win the ugliest game ever in NFL playoff history? Not really.
It's not impossible, and like in honest, my only logic is just like the fact that they had just lost to the Panthers this year in the same way. The Rams were healthy; they were healthier in that game. They had Dotson and Devontae Adams. Now they get Adams back, but they don't get Dotson back. If the Panthers want to win this game, they need to commit a couple turnovers, and they need to attack the corners of the Rams. They need to be able to just get vertical and take chances. They can't win this game by being passive on offense. They're going to need to try to force the issue with some explosive plays. And if they land, they can hang around. But I don't know. I look at what the Rams usually do, to knock great teams in the playoffs, and they usually take care of their business. Stafford, never not many games, but has never lost the playoff game while he was favored. And the spread's 10 points for a reason. I could see Atlanta. I could see Los Angeles getting out to an early lead, getting the run game going, and just kind of controlling the clock and controlling the game and, getting Devontae Adams his red zone looks and a touchdown and Puka being able to kind of just get himself open when he needs to be. And it's almost, I'm not saying they're not taking it seriously, but it's one of those games that they can't make the moment bigger than what it is. They can't inflate it in their heads and get all freaked out of like, oh, this is, we lost here a couple. They need to just, if they're relaxed, which I really do think they will be, I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be able to kind of roll them a little bit. So I'm going to take the Rams -10. It's a lot of points. It's a lot of points for a playoff game. There's a lot of trends that favor. There's a lot of trends that favor the underdogs on Wild Card Weekend, but this is one that I think can get ugly early, and the Panthers could just kind of roll over a little bit. They're not playing like as suspect of football as the uh, Rams have been playing to finish out the regular season. The Panthers have just been flat out ass the last 2 games of the
Yeah,
regular
they fell
season.
apart.
Yeah, they played 2 really bad games and lost both of them and got in on the most like ass backwards, 3-way tie falling into the playoffs. I think they can roll them. Give me Los Angeles -10.
Give me Los Angeles as well. I don't think this is a situation. This feels like when the Washington Commanders won the NFC East in 2000 with Taylor Heineke as the
2020, you mean?
or 2020, excuse me, with Taylor Heineke. Like they're just going to get smacked on wild like
So
on
we've seen
today.
under 500 teams win a playoff game, but I just don't foresee Rico Dowdle pulling off any beast quakes.
Yes, I agree. That's what I was just going
You
to say.
know
I
what
don't
I
see.
mean? Like I just
Yeah,
don't
if
see it.
Rico Tattle was like Bijan Robinson this year, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe
man.
they have a
If you
shot,
had, yeah,
but
but
he's
like
not. So
no, they don't have a
I am taking.
superstar.
I am taking Los Angeles as well. I agree with you, man.
Take us to Saturday night, NFC North bout on Amazon Prime. Al Michaels, the geriatric, is going to be calling a playoff game. We can only hope he doesn't stale this one out. The Green Bay
Dude, it is
Packers,
really sad how bad he's fallen off,
the
man. 'Cause
Green Bay Packers are
I
one
want
and a
to. I
half
want to
point.
share with you my favorite Al Michaels call of all time. It's not. Do you believe in miracles? It's. Can I just get the short version of this? Yeah, it's a YouTube quote. Here, I'm going to share this run that will go into the game because it's really good. because it's certainly meme worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Lays it up.
Oh.
Freeman, and it's incomplete. Or did he make the catch at the 15? Yes. What are they going to rule? That he caught it? Touchdown. He did what? Well, the Packers are going wild. The crowd's going wild. But let's see what
It's a shame because Al Michaels, he used to be great, man. He used to have some juice. He used to be. He's just an 81-year-old man. It's time to put the dog down. Like it's time to get him out of the
Like
booth
John
because
Madden, when John Madden retired, he retired like at before he started embarrassing himself.
but he's at least an analyst. Like he's not, calling the game. We're like Al Michaels, he's just having trouble registering what's happening on the field sometimes. And he tries to like throw on the excited voice like when it's too late. So it's like a boring call and he's like, touchdown. Like it's like, okay, he just doesn't know what's going on. And Kirk Herbstreit, not good NFL guy, like really needs to stick to
Yeah, dude,
college.
there's certainly a different way calling NFL and college because in college, the schemes are more simplified.
And it's just like everything's like a story about the player and like recruiting, and there's all the surrounding features of college football that he's talking about. Hey, regardless of the announcers, we have a game here. The Packers are road favorites, 1.5 road favorites in Chicago to take on the Bears. Um, this is going to be a really good game. I think this is going to be a
I
really
agree.
close game. I think it's going to be a high scoring game, and it's just a matter of who can pull it out. Listen, the Packers have clearly been putting Josh Jacobs on ice. He's gone a month without having more than 12 carries in a game, so they're clearly making a concerted effort to have been saving him for this point. Um, this is a matchup between two electrifying offenses, two good head coaches, two good schemers, two quarterbacks with strong arms, two great running game, like a lot of similarities between this team and then between these teams. And you look at the defensive side of the ball, and both these defenses stink. I mean, the Bears, they're only like better at this point because of the high turnover variance. They force a lot of turnovers, and those are huge, explosive, game-changing defensive plays, but sometimes it doesn't even matter. The 49ers game, perfect example. First play, pick six to open up the game. You're like, oh, look out, Chicago. And then they give up what, a touchdown on like every consecutive drive after the fact. Like it was really, it was just a sieve. It was awful. One of the big stats that I like in this game is third down success rate. The Green Bay Packers are the best team in the NFL. They're second best team in the NFL converting third down behind only the 49ers. The Bears are seventh, so it's not like there are any slouches in this. But where Green Bay is the best at, they're the best at 3rd and 5 or longer. So they're really great at converting if they're falling behind the sticks on first down and are in those 3rd and long situations. They're able to convert and keep the offense on the field. And I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Josh Jacobs. They've really been saving him. Jordan Love's been on the shelf for a few weeks. Um, the Bears, they have the Caleb Williams effect where he has the strong arm and the ability to run around, and I feel like I can just picture him on bootlegs with no Micah Parsons to chase him down, and that can be very difficult for Green Bay to stop. Where I wanna just kinda side with this game is the quarterback with playoff experience. Quarterbacks with no playoff experience versus quarterbacks who do have playoff experience are 20 and 40 straight up, and while I do think Caleb Williams is kind of one of those guys that could just be ready for the moment, not let the moment rattle him, his just general inconsistencies as a young growing quarterback and down to down accuracy, I think that can spiral a little bit in a playoff game to let you fall behind when your defense is fully reliant on turnovers to turn the tide. And if Green Bay can protect the ball, control the ball, I can see them pulling this one out in a shootout. I'm going to take the Packers on the road as 1.5 point favorites to. I guess it's not an upset, but I really do feel like it would be considered an upset.
The vibe I get, the sharps are all kind of loading, are taking Green Bay. for what you just said. It feels like in these divisional games, when these games get split, the team with more experience, if they have to play each other in the playoffs, is the team that usually comes out ahead. Like, obviously, this Bears team blew their shot at the 1 seed, lucked out when the Eagles, didn't play their starters, and
choked anyways.
Ben Johnson, for how creative as a play caller he is, he's very immature. Like, he's worried about this is where I think I'm taking the Bears, and this is going to be for maybe I agree with a lot of the points that you just made. He's thinking about the Eagles. Like, this guy's obsessed with the Eagles. I'm not saying that as an Eagles fan. You saw it, like, with the Lions' attitude. They're like, oh, well, if we played the Eagles in the NFC Championship game, we would have beaten them. And now and then after they lose to the Bears, when the Bears lost to the Lions, which is an embarrassing loss because the Lions were playing for nothing. People are talking about, is Dan Campbell, is he still the guy in Detroit? Questioning him, talking about how bad Jared Goff is outdoors. They blew it, Michael. Like, the Bears kind of blew it, and he's like, well, we played our starters unlike some other teams. Talking specifically about the Eagles. The Eagles were the only team that didn't really play their starters besides the Packers. He also could have been talking about the Packers, and it's like, dude, you're just being a clown. And it almost, in this kind of game, like, the Packers have a lot on the line. I think they have more on the line than the Bears. The Bears are kind of playing with house money. And we always talk about that in a positive sense. Like, who cares?
I disagree. I don't think the Bears are playing with house money. I think this is the first time in, like, a Bears-Packers matchup in maybe, 50 years where I honestly think the Packers are playing with house money. The Packers, they made the big trade for Micah Parsons, and he's hurt. They got injuries all over the place. They're going to get Zach Tom back, which is cool. But when you don't, Tucker Kraft's been hurt for a while. Micah Parsons out for the season. When you're super banged up like that, I do think it's built-in excuses. I think it'd be crazy to fire Matt LaFleur if they lose this playoff game, almost no matter how it goes, just because you weren't at your full equipped roster when it was like the Packers were the hot pick to win the Super Bowl after the trade. They were the hot pick after we watched them play for a month, all that. And then Parsons goes down and the whole thing kind of fell apart. I think all the pressure's on the Bears. I think the Bears can start playing with house money once they beat the Packers. If they beat Green Bay, now it's all house money. If you lose to the defending Super Bowl champions in the divisional round, throw your hands up. It is what it is. If you lose to, the Rams at home, and that great roster and that great team, not the end of the world. I really do think in order for the house money to kick in, they got to beat the Packers in a meaningful game for both teams.
This is
where the pressure's all on you.
This is where I think there's a lot of pressure on Jordan Love because, he's been the starting quarterback there, like undisputed starting QB for 3 years now. And, Michael, it doesn't really look good for him if he goes into this game and, kind of lays an egg. And I don't know, dude. Like, Malik Willis came in and also looked efficient. And listen, Jordan Love is most certainly a better quarterback than Malik Willis. But my point is, he's got to go back in there. He's kind of got to prove a point, in other words. And listen, we know Aaron Rodgers is a playoff choker. We know that, right? He's a playoff choker.
I mean, to an extent.
To an extent. But listen, Favre and Rodgers had a lot of early playoff success. Like, Jordan Love, is beating the Cowboys an impressive playoff performance. We know how bad they've been in the playoffs for the last 30 years.
I don't think we can revisionist history that one. That was a 2-seeded Cowboys team with the top scoring defense in the NFL. And they went and absolutely railed them. It was 48-16 at one point. I don't think we can discount that as like a Mickey Mouse win or anything. Like that was incredible. They were a few drops and missed throws away of stuff of beating San Francisco, and they would have been the ones coming here in the. No, they wouldn't have been the ones coming here, but they would have gone to
Missed
the
throws.
conference championship. Listen, I get it. It was his second career playoff game. I hear you. I agree. I do
He's
think
got a
there
lot
is
to
some
prove. No,
inherent
he's got a lot
pressure.
to prove. I mean, you look at Caleb, like he also has a lot to prove, but I feel like if they lose like a close game, like a field goal game where,
It's gonna be a bad look, man. I think if
I
the
don't think
Bears
so because the Bears still have a ton of cap space. Like no one thought they'd get this far. And you look at the NFC North, like the Vikings don't have a quarterback. The
Yeah, but
Lions,
we can't just say the NFC North is one of the best divisions in football.
like they
Even
could still
still,
be the best team in the NFC North next year.
The Vikings don't have a quarterback and they went 9-8.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Okay, that's damn
Okay,
impressive.
well, they're going to go 9-8 again next year. Well,
Yeah, if they don't have a quarterback, sure. I think the Bears, you got to take advantage of this
Brian
opportunity
Flores
a
might
little
not be
bit.
there next year. He might be the Fat Ravens coach.
Micah Parsons probably isn't going to tear his ACL next year. Like he's going to be playing a bunch of games, and I don't think the Lions are going to have another down season with the brain drain. And I think they're going to address their issues. The Bears are going to be playing a first place schedule next year. I think honestly, I think if the Bears lose, the memes are going to be up the ass about the same old Bears, can't beat the Packers when it counts, same old Bears, and it's gonna look the schedule's gonna come out, and it's gonna look a lot tougher than it did this year, and they're not gonna win the one possession game, voodoo crazy win, like, variance. That's gonna come back down to the mean a little bit. It's a huge game for the Bears. If they lose, it is not going to be a fun offseason for them. I think Bears fans are gonna try to kinda cope a little bit with, "Oh, this is just the beginning." Sure, probably it is. But I do think in a year where the NFL is about as wide open as it can get, it would behoove them to beat your biggest rival at a home playoff game and give yourself a shot to go on a run against, what's the most wide open the NFL probably will ever be. Where are you picking with this game? I have Green Bay. Where are you at?
I'm with Green Bay.
Okay.
It'd be
Okay.
kind of hilarious that Sirianni again gets bailed out by.
It does feel that's also partially. The next game we have opening up the Sunday slate, Sunday at 1 p.m. What some would say is the best game on the entire weekend, and I'd probably have a hard time disagreeing. The Buffalo Bills head down to Duval to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags are 1.5-point favorites at home. This is another tough one. You have a team that could literally not be hotter than the way the Jags have been playing for the better part of like almost 3 months now. They've been playing at such a high level and they've been winning in all different ways. They absolutely dismantled the current 1 seed in the AFC of the Denver Broncos in their own home. Their passing game is absolutely flourishing. It really took off when they acquired Jacoby Myers. Their running game has actually been pretty inconsistent and very inefficient, but the passing game's been so good, and Liam Cohen's a good enough designer. He's been getting the running backs involved through the passing game, and their defense has been really
Where
good too.
Liam Cohen's offense is so good at Michael to me is he puts a lot of pressure on cornerbacks in open fields having to make tackles. And if you
Mhm.
look at look at most of the league, like there's the only team off the top of my head that can make open field tackles as corners are like the Philadelphia Eagles with Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell.
Buffalo does have a good secondary. Their passing defense stats are definitely among the top in the league. So I do think it's a good matchup for Buffalo's defense, but the Jags, I think they're going to try to run the ball a little bit. This is going to come down to it's going to come down to, I think coaching is going to play a big factor. It's Sean McDermott's defense, and he calls the plays. Against Liam Cohen's offense, he calls the plays, and who's going to out-scheme the other, put the other one in uncomfortable situations? It's going to be up to Sean McDermott to make Trevor Lawrence uncomfortable, and hopefully he throws a couple tomatoes and, you win that way by him turning the ball over a couple times. But Liam Cohen, I think, is going to continuing to do a good job at putting Lawrence in favorable situations. It's been part of what's limited his turnovers, of having him be a good passer and, hit some easy stuff to unlock and open up some of the harder stuff, and using his feet in the red zone. And it's been really effective. When I look at the other side of the ball, I expect a heavy dose of James Cook, and I think Josh Allen's going to have to kind of throw on the the Superman cape. And to be completely honest with you, that's not like a bad strategy from Buffalo's perspective. They've won countless games where he throws on the cape and has to kind of do everything. And I think the lack of receiving weapons is probably going to come out to play a little bit too much, but it's just a matter of if Josh can make the plays and make the throws that he has to. And if you get into that sort of matchup of Allen versus Lawrence in the Superman game, I think you got to lean Josh Allen if it really comes down to that.
Well, I will say this: you look at, I think a big stat I want to bring up right for both these teams is win rate. So the Bills' win rate for pass blocking, they're fourth in the NFL. Run blocking, they're number one in the NFL.
It's a great offensive line. It really is.
Which makes a lot of sense when you look at James Cook leading the NFL in rushing. And plus, Josh Allen, how effective he is when he's, out there on design quarterback runs. Ray Davis, Ty Johnson are decent backups. We're going to go to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's pass blocking win rate, they're 14th in the NFL on their own. Or, sorry, pass rush win rate, they're 14th.
Oh, the defensive line.
The defensive line, 14th at pass rush. Run stuffing win rate, run stopping, they're 31st in the NFL. And here's the thing. Why did the Bills lose to the Chiefs again last year? Because they were hesitant to give James Cook a Saquon Barkley type workload where it's we're gonna give you the ball to win us the game. They were hesitant in that. And we could say, and listen, James Cook this was his first year, Michael, where he got a full workload. He had 300 touches or 300 carries, I believe, this year.
I think I know where you're going with this game, John.
If the Bills lose this game, it's going to be because of poor coaching. When you look at the Jags are, I think, are overachieving because of their coaching. So I guess the question would be, do you go with coaching matters, or it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes?
Yeah, it's a tough call, man, because if
Michael, I'm gonna lean with the Jimmies and the Joes. I'm gonna take Buffalo.
Nice. I listen. This is the tightest game of the week. I think this and the Bears-Packer game is the hardest game to really pick and feel comfortable and confident in your decision. If it comes down to what quarterback is going to just make more plays, I really do think Josh Allen and the Bills get it. But my personal thought is I just don't think it's going to come down to that simple of, who's better, who's going to make the more plays. I think it's going to come down to I'm going to lean the X's and the O's, like you said. I think the coaching is going to play a role in it, to where Liam Cohen is going to be very selective with it and very aggressive, but not forcing the issue, not forcing Trevor Lawrence to get uncomfortable. And listen, we've seen Trevor Lawrence play in playoff games before. He had one of the worst halves in football against the Chargers, and then put on an absolute masterclass with some help to come from behind down 27 points. I don't think it's not like a moment like this is gonna be too big for him. Obviously, college, he played in big games every year of his collegiate career. It's I'm gonna trust the Jags. I'm gonna trust Liam Cohen. I'm gonna trust that even though the Jags' rushing attack hasn't been all that good, that the Bills' rushing attack is bad enough that they're gonna be able to kinda control the ball a little bit. I do see this potentially being a bit of a shootout. If it gets a little sloggy, that's where I think it favors the Bills. If this game is a bit of a drag early on, I think Buffalo's gonna have what it takes to pull it out. But if both offenses are kinda flourishing, I think the Jags are gonna be able to kinda win the explosive play battle and steal it that way at home. So give me Jacksonville minus 1.5, our first split decision of wild card weekend. Next game, because we've been doing it for the last handful of months, we're going to keep doing it. We're going to talk about things in order. We're not saving the Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles at home to take on the San Francisco 49ers, a rematch of the 2022-2023 NFC Championship game. Obviously, both teams are quite different from that moment. The Eagles have a significant health advantage and just a better defense, while also having a pretty significantly worse offense. And the 49ers definitely have a significantly worse defense than they did in that game. And, you know, barring something catastrophic, should be healthier on offense to an extent entering this game. Obviously, I think injuries are the biggest story, though, with this game. No Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner, obviously huge. No drawing a blank on the other 49ers linebacker that's been playing the last handful of weeks. Are
Blue
you
winners. Wait,
sorry? No, not winners. It's not Bazemore, but oh man. Mhm.
Key
Official injury
winners. Key
report.
winners is questionable.
That's not who I'm thinking of,
Luke
though.
Gifford is questionable.
Oh, who am I thinking of that they said was out? They put on like IR. Maybe it is Winters. I don't know. But regardless, we have 2 guys that I just don't think are gonna play. They haven't practiced all week, that are huge, huge, huge impact players for the 49ers, and it's Ricky Pearsall and Trent Williams. Now, if those 2 guys aren't playing, I do think the 49ers offense is going to struggle. We just saw the 49ers offense after going on a heater of all heaters, go at home against the Seahawks and lay an absolute egg. Um, those injuries were
Or the one seed.
for the 1 seed. Those injuries were massive for them, and they were put into a box. They really couldn't do much of anything against Seattle, and I think the Eagles are gonna have a similar defensive formula to stop them, trusting the front four to get home and bring pressure, trusting the edges, especially against their weak tackles, to put Purdy under duress and continue to trust the back end to cover up. I don't think the receiving core of, Jawan Jennings and, uh drawing blanks without Ricky Pearsall being in the lineup of Jawan Jennings, Demarcus Robinson, Sky Moore, Kendrick Bourne. Like it's just not serious. And where they do have a great weapon is at tight end, George Kittle. But the Eagles have been like far and away the best team in the league at shutting down tight ends this season. They've played some really good ones, and they've virtually held them all to next to nothing. That's been pretty dominant thanks to the linebackers
George Kittle's also
on.
banged up too.
He is banged up, but he has, I don't think he doesn't have an injury designation. But between Zach Bond, Jahad Campbell, Nakobe Dean at the linebacker position, and Epps and Blankenship at safety, and DeJean and the nickel, they've been shutting down tight ends pretty effectively and pretty easily all season. And I don't think this is going to be an exception. They know that he's their biggest threat in the passing attack, and they're going to key in on it. Shanahan, I'm sure, is going to be watching a lot of that Black Friday game, trying to pull some schematics from what the Bears were able to do against the Eagles. But I don't know. I think Vic Fangio's defense is going to be way too smothering and just too much for them to handle, too much for Shanahan to even out scheme. And the Eagles are 6-point favorites for a reason. Like this opened up at 3.5, and it's slowly but surely moved up to a touchdown at this point. And deservedly so. The Eagles are healthy, the 49ers are not, and the Eagles are just the better team. The best unit on the field is who, John, between the two teams?
Oh, the best overall unit?
Yeah, offense, defense, both teams.
Oh, the Eagles defense
And what's the
versus
worst unit on the field? Don't the Niners defense, right, John? That's the worst unit on the field. And if you factor
oh.
those things in, I
I
do
mean,
think it
I
really
was
much
going to say
favors the
player
Eagles.
wise, yes, it's most certainly the Niners defense. Coached unit, it's the Eagles offense by far.
Yeah, if you want to look at like the Eagles defense and the Niners offense, those are the two strong suits going head to head, and then you have the two weak suits on the other side. I think the Eagles defense takes care of the Niners offense. The other side of it is the more frustrating side of it. The Eagles offense against a very banged up, very not good 49ers defense. John, what are your thoughts with that matchup there?
What the Eagles offense versus the Niners defense?
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, the big thing is going to be the Eagles O line is just bad, man. It's just
Mm-hmm.
bad. And the Niners defensive line, obviously missing Bosa, they're playing as well as they possibly could. They did a good job. They did a good job shutting down Darnold, but I think a big part of it was Darnold just transforming into playoff Darnold. You know,
He's been a pumpkin for some weeks now.
for a few weeks now. I do think I would hope Jalen would obviously be better than that. He's definitely earned the right to earn the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Look, man, you got to put pressure on the Niners corners. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the weakest part of their defense. And you saw how well the Seahawks ran the ball. The Seahawks have really struggled running the ball, off and on all season to certain extents, You want to see the Eagles do that with Tank Bigsby and obviously, Saquon as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is an opportunity for Jalen to continue what is like been a pretty big
I will
trend of
be
him.
right back, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead. A pretty big trend to him rising to the occasion. He struggled a little bit in those first two playoff games last year, but obviously was incredible in the NFC title game and in the Super Bowl. He's had two great Super Bowls. He's had two great NFC championship games. He's had much more better. He has much more good playoff games than bad ones. Um, and I think this is another chance for him to kind of show off his ability to show up in big games and to play well. And I look at what the Niners defense has to offer, and it's we're probably going to say this every week until like a coaching thing changes, but it's such an overwhelmingly massive talent disparity between the Eagles offense and the Niners defense, and that should be enough. I mean, the Eagles offensive line is not great, but they do get Lane Johnson back, which is huge. Getting Lane back, I think, will help a lot. It's going to take a unit that's been kind of brutal all season and should provide some stability. I think it'll make Tyler Steen's life a lot easier. It'll make just the ability to kind of help out inside in the passing game a lot easier because you can just rely on the two tackles on islands again. And that's huge. I think AJ Brown, he's had some inconsistent playoff like statistical performances. I never felt that he played badly in any of the games, but he's definitely due to have a big playoff game. And I think this is another opportunity. Granted, the weather forecast is a little suspect with the wind. I don't think it's not gonna be raining during the game or anything, but it is supposed to be windy again, and that's been an issue all season, it feels like, with the weather, but I do think, like you said, John, the running game is gonna be a massive X factor for the Eagles, and if they're able to get Saquon going and involve Tank Bigsby a little bit to, you know, lean on the running game there,
Also
and
get
the big
Dallas
thing.
Goedert involved. You saw the tight ends for the Seahawks were kind of cooking a little bit to a
Yeah,
certain.
Goddard. I think the usual suspects are gonna be involved. I think the biggest difference we're gonna see from regular season to the playoffs now with the Eagles is gonna be the running game with the quarterback. It's gonna be Jalen Hurts' legs getting involved in more designed runs. I really do think they've been sitting on it. They asked Jalen about it. Do you think it's been done to help keep you healthy? And he just straight up said no. He said that's just what KP has been calling, and I do what I'm told to do. It was it's about as blunt as he's been with the media talking about internal stuff all year, even though he has really been blunt about being aggressive and stuff. I mean, now it's not that we're not saving anything now. We're here. We're in the playoffs. It's time to go. It's time to unleash everything. And I think involving Jalen in the run game is just going to help everything out. We know how predictable they can become and the way that linebackers and safeties have been all triggering downfield. The threat of a running quarterback hasn't been felt like all season. Teams aren't, it's not that they're not respecting Jalen as a runner, they're just not being kept honest. They're like, well, they're not really running it with Jalen much this year, so just take the shot on Saquon. And if Jalen pulls it and keeps it, throw our hands up, we'll give it to him. We know they don't want to do that. You have to be a lot more willing to do it. You just have to. And I think it's going to be to their great benefit. Give me the Eagles -6. I the way I'm looking at this, if I had to give like a score prediction, I'm in the realm of like 27-13. I think that the defense is going to play well, start to finish, like they have been for most of the season. And I think the offense is going to be able to get going a little bit, maybe get benefited with a turnover to help a short field. And they're going to be able to just have a nice normal. Feel like every time you say it never happens, but I'm just hoping and thinking they're going to have like what feels like a nice normal win to set them up for the divisional round, no matter where it's going to be, whether it's in Chicago or whether they're going to be playing it at home.
Yeah, I do think I'm going to take the Eagles as well.
Nice.
I just think that
Good vibe, John.
I think it's going to be like a 10-point kind of game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Yeah, whatever they have to unleash it. If not, I mean, listen, we know what likely happen is you saw. I forget who said this, but they were like, "Oh, Nick loves KP," and it's like, well, it might not be up to him because like
No.
you're gonna have the team have a mutiny over it because like he's your buddy. Like that.
Yeah, and the players have been calling it out all season. Obviously, every AJ tirade has been like, you can connect the dot that it's directed towards how they operate and design stuff as opposed to, and like the general philosophy. If I'll be honestly, John, I'm gonna be so pissed if they get up early and are up like say 17-3 or 17-6 at halftime and just kind of put it in the tank again and like first down run, second down run, third down throw away, and we're just asking, hey, we're not going to get you like any first downs. You're going to need the defense to hold for about 4, maybe 5 possessions in the second half. Can you do that for us, Vic? No points for 5 straight drives. Thanks. Like, if that is what occurs tomorrow, I'm going to be so pissed. I'm going to be so discouraged. And I'm probably going to pick the Eagles to lose the next game if that's what it comes down to, if they get out of it. Because if they try to play the way they played against Buffalo, I just think they're going to lose at some point. Like, if they try to put it in the tank and just cling to a lead because they have a couple possession lead and don't try to step on their throats, it's going to be an early exit, and that's going to be really frustrating because they just have an opportunity here to do something that's really hard to do. But anyways, both on the Eagles, which takes us to Sunday Night Football. This is a fun one as well. The Los Angeles Chargers on the road to take on the New England Patriots. John, I brought up that stat of how quarterbacks with playoff experience play well against quarterbacks with 0 playoff experience, and this is another one of those matchups. Drake May making his playoff debut as a 3.5-point home favorite, likely not going to win the MVP, taking on a Chargers team that has been feisty all year, despite their injuries, despite the lack of offensive line talent. They've been able to make it work, and it's largely due to the superstar ability of Justin Herbert. This is a huge game for him to just look good. I think even if they lose, if he looks good doing it and plays well doing it, even the biggest of haters can admit, well, he did play well, but he just didn't get the job done. Where if he goes out and lays another stinker, it is going to be very difficult to change a lot of people's minds to feel, the way we probably should feel about Justin Herbert and his great ability. This is an interesting game. This is a one that I've been torn on. This is one of the ones I think I may be most torn on in terms of where I land with it. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, like the big matchup's going to be the Chargers O-line, I think, versus the Patriots defensive line. Which, if you look at the Patriots like defense, like Milton Williams banged up, coming off injury. Christian Barmore probably should be arrested.
He's gonna play.
He's gonna play. I feel like if Herbert gets time to throw in this game, like the Chargers, this could be a very close game. And it's Drake May's first playoff game, too. Like, he's been balling all season. Really hasn't had a game since, like, early
Outside
on
of the
in
Bills
the year.
games, I'll say.
What's that?
What hasn't had a game since what?
Like a down game.
Yeah, he's gone a long time without playing bad football. You can almost argue it's really since week 1. He had that stink. He didn't play too well against the Raiders, and after that, it's really been good. He's been great.
I also think, though, too, you look at the Chargers, though, like they're just like
the weapons are so mid.
Big time chokers is what I'm saying.
I like McConkey a lot, but he's not having as an effective year as he had last year. Quentin Johnson.
And in that playoff loss to the Texans, he had a really good game.
A great game. Like, I'd like to think a formula that has Justin Herbert, it has like Khalil Mack and Derwin James and other other really high-end defensive talent. And you have a kicker that can, if hopefully he doesn't choke again for their sake, but you have a kicker that is the most accurate kicker in like NFL history under 50 and is good post 50. Like, he can do everything. That feels like a weapon. Like, I think this game is going to come down to a field goal. And for that reason, I am going to take the Chargers plus the 3.5. I think even if they lose, they'll cover. But I think I'm going to slightly lean for the Chargers here. I think I'm going to give them their first playoff win. And I think the Patriots are going to suffer what's going to be a pretty disappointing defeat and just show that they're not all the way back yet. Teams like the Jets are like, wow, I thought it was supposed to take 10 years to find your next franchise quarterback. And they found it pretty quickly after the post-Brady era. And I just don't think they're going to have the instant success that they had 20 years ago with Tom Brady. I think it's going to take a little bit.
Was a second-year Tom Brady.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think that's going to happen. I think
this Patriots defense doesn't have like the Ty Laws, Lawyer Malloys, Willie McGinnis.
Christian Gonzalez is very good.
Mike, Teddy Bruschi,
is he not?
Mike Vrabels type players.
I think Christian Gonzalez is great.
That's just one guy though. I mean, that's the thing. Like, that defense the Patriots had was really good, and Tom Brady managed the game. Like, they kind of don't.
I will say, like, Drake May's just been incredible. He's highest EPA per play, like, against the pressure. He's got the highest completion percentage in the NFL. They are like best in third down. They're second behind Green Bay and like third and long. They do a lot of the things right, and their weapons feel honestly better than the Chargers' weapons a little bit. A little less like, this feels like the game can be gritty, and a couple Travion Henderson home runs like really can turn the tide in this game. But all that being said, I think I'm gonna, maybe it's a little hopeful or whatever, but I'm gonna go with Justin Herbert. I'm gonna go with the Chargers, and I'm gonna take them plus 3.5 on the road here.
I'm taking the Chargers as well. I agree. I think it's going to be a very close game.
All right. Monday Night Football. Monday night to end wild card weekend. Yeah, the Steelers. What is it now, John? They've won 23 straight home Monday night games. There's
Yeah.
a lot of trends, I have to say, that favor the Pittsburgh Steelers. Super Bowl quarterbacks versus non-Super Bowl winning quarterbacks are great in the playoffs. Um, you know, home underdogs tend to be pretty good in covering and winning games outright in the playoffs. The Steelers have a lot of voodoo going their way, but the Texans are 3-point favorites for a reason. That defense is historic. It is historically dominant. They don't do anything super creative. It's just a bunch of really, really great players and a nasty, aggressive attitude. They force turnovers, they get pressure, they get sacks. They do everything right. They do everything conceivably correct on defense. And DK Metcalf coming back is huge for the Steelers, but I just don't think it's gonna be enough. Um, to be able to outscore even a struggling Texans unit on offense. I mean, the Texans offense has been pretty reliant on explosive plays. Like the path to a Texans Super Bowl looks like the defense keeps doing what it's doing and the offense hits like 3 explosive plays a game. They got to hit their big splash plays to Nico Collins or Jaden Higgins or um, Jalen Knoll or whatever, or Jaden Higgins or Jalen Knoll, like whoever. And that's kind of how they've just been winning. That's how they've been winning during the regular season, and it's gonna be how they have to win in the playoffs, hitting a few splash plays and the defense dominates. And I think they're gonna be able to do that a little bit against Pittsburgh, even though Pittsburgh should dominate on the defensive line. I think that they're gonna be able to let a few fly downfield, and all it's gonna take is probably just to hit a couple because that Texans defense is gonna be absolutely smothering. Give me Houston -3.
I'm taking Houston as well. I did see a stat. Like, we know about playoff Kenny Gainwell, and I wonder if
Sure.
Pittsburgh's going to ride that. I just feel like if Aaron Rodgers is just going to do nonstop checkdowns, it's really going to fall on the Texans linebackers and secondary just to have to make tackles, And, the one thing we've seen with this Texans defense, if they have any kind of weakness, they're much better against the pass than they are at the run. We saw Ashton Jeanty, break a couple against them. We saw like James Cook had a lot of success against them. The Steelers are going to have to run the ball to win. And, the question is going to be, is Aaron Rodgers going to humble himself to allow that to happen, or is he going to want to play hero ball? I don't think that's going to happen, Michael. I think he's going to cost them the game. I'm taking Houston. And I think we may have lost. Oh,
No, you didn't lose me. I sneezed and my headphone fell out of my ear and I don't know where it went, so I'm gonna have to find that. Anyways, yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that getting Metcalf back is huge because we just saw the last few weeks of Rodgers trying to just play as if Metcalf is out there, like throwing these fade balls to Scotty Miller, throwing these fade balls to, Calvin Austin or to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like that is just not a recipe for success. And he plays, it's not that it's out of structure, it's just like taking the one-on-one chances when your weapons aren't good enough to win one-on-one consistently instead of playing on the strong side and trusting your route combinations to get open and trusting the pressure won't get there. Now, granted, this Houston Texans defense is going to make both of those things really difficult. Go ahead, take your one-on-ones with Metcalf against Derek Stingley. I think the Texans will take their odds that Stingley's not going to drown them. And go ahead, try to read the front side while that pass rush is bearing down on you. The one thing that's killed Rodgers, post-prime, post-Green Bay, has been his effectiveness against the pressure. That was something he was so special at, running around, taking hits and zinging perfect strikes while the pressure is bearing down. And that's something he doesn't have anymore. I the lack of a second vertical threat, the lack of, like, say, I don't know, a guy like George Pickens, I think that that's something that is really tanking them. Could you imagine if this team had George Pickens too? It'd be a lot better. Rodgers be just throwing go balls every play. And guess what? When you got Pickens and Metcalf on opposite sides of the field, yeah, it's a hell of a lot harder to stop. But when it's, oh, one-on-one, let's shade a safety towards DK Metcalf, and then the other side of the field is Adam Thielen, Calvin Austin, and MVS, and, like, Freiermuth. What do you think is gonna, take place? I don't know. I think
D'Amico
if the
Ryans
Steelers
2-0 on Wild Card Weekend.
I think if the Steelers wanna win, it's gonna be a heavy dose of your running backs and the defensive line of Pittsburgh just taking over the game and putting CJ Stroud in hell, banking on a turnover or 2, and, banking on some kicker
Banking on the
luck.
fact the Texans just don't have a lot of depth in terms of weapons on offense. It's Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Woody Marks.
Both these teams have very similar offensive weaponry. But the best we talk about what's the best unit on the field? It's the Texans defense by far. And I think that's really what's going to take over the game, and that's what's going to open up the door to the Texans maybe going on a little run here. So give me Houston, give you Houston, and that'll do it. So today, 4:30 Saturday, Rams at Panthers. We both are taking the Los Angeles Rams -10. Later tonight, Green Bay Packers at Chicago Bears. We're both taking the Green Bay Packers -1.5. Tomorrow afternoon at 1:00, we are split. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars -1.5 at home, and you are taking the Buffalo Bills +1.5 on the road to get the job done. Sunday at 4:30, we'll be at the game. We are both taking the Philadelphia Eagles -6 at home against the 49ers. Sunday night, we are both taking the underdog road Los Angeles Chargers +3.5 at the New England Patriots. And then Monday night, we are both taking the road favorite Houston Texans -3 to win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that is our wild card weekend. And yeah, that'll wrap up the show this afternoon, early afternoon, this morning, if you want to call it, for us today.
That's it for the show, everybody. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for your continued support. Enjoy the weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.